Hello everyone, welcome to SDET Fast Track Training for March 2020. So it's going to be long sessions. There's a lot of content that we'll be covering in a very structured way. So let's spend a few minutes understanding what this program gives you and how you can go about working with it. Pretty much a lot about the program has been mentioned here, team. Let me re-emphasize some of it so we're all on the same page. Any questions on that? Let me know. Now, team, definitely I think I should mention this as a prereq, basic QA process and basic coding, be it with Java or I'm not expecting you to be an expert programmer here. But even if you're not, we would be covering a lot of these concepts as we go through. Now, please do note, this is very focused SDET training. And that's our software development engineer. And that's the first part of it that we need to understand. Typically, that's someone who can develop software, but right now they're doing it for a testing team. And how does that role play? I'm introducing you to some of these. Any questions, let me know as I keep going along. I would love to answer them as we keep moving forward. Let's look at what we are trying to do, how we are trying to accomplish this team now. A lot of tools or skills that we need to adapt for it. I wouldn't be able to do justice by not including the ones that I'm showing here. But yes, as I keep expanding, I see that there's a need for more such tools that I'm including week 3. Let me give you a gist of what I'm trying to do, team. Every week, 20 hours. That's like 4 hours per day, Monday through Friday. And that's 5 days in the first week and 5 days in the second week. With this 40 hours of live training, I plan to cover a lot of this content in a very structured, almost like a syllabus manner. Yes, we will look at all the practical implementations on how this is done. We will do hands-on with it as well. Now, just giving additional notes, team. Live training is right now from 9 to 1:30 p.m. Pacific, like I was mentioning. Yes, Monday through Friday. We should be completing by end of next week. The only thing about tomorrow, day 2, I'm thinking, team, but we'll come to that. Okay. Now, we will record them. Videos will be available later on. https://youtube. Sorry. That's the channel team for day 1 / demo videos. For members, to be on itlearn.com, and that is where Pavan blesses us for my team. Use this keyboard now. Our team, we will do tech support. So one of the things that I'm going to create is a Skype group. So let me quickly do that, so that way we can get going with that as well. New chat, new group chat. I'm gonna add a few people from my team in this team. I'll say this is SDET Fast Track. And just to make sure, I'm going to rename a couple of the other ones team into it. I'm just adding my team to get the link out. Invite more people. The good thing about Skype team is You basically have the ability to join and join out different groups and interact with everyone else also. That gives you some advantage. I'm putting this even in the chat. You're welcome to join this as it goes along. So for the topics of what we are doing in this training, this would be the Skype group, everyone. Just want to make sure that this doesn't get mixed up with what we have. This is core Java. Yes, it can be considered part of SDET training, but that's a different one that's going on. So let's keep it as core Java. I'm going to take you slow a little bit for the first couple of hours and then do. Okay. And the other one that we have is Python. Let's call this as Python training. Okay, great. So team, we've got those going. I have SDET fast track. Some of you are already joining into it. Good. So that would be a place where we could do a lot of tech support. So please make sure you join that Skype group. I'm also putting this into a document. What are we going to cover in the training primarily, team, and how I'm structuring it? Please note that some of these tools are not necessarily something that you have to learn as part of it. They can be learned absolutely independently. A lot of these tools can be learned independently and worked on independently. We're also trying to put them together into the overall scenario of how the QA in the current agile and automated world works, team. Especially in all this crisis, we need to make sure our skills are also uptight. So here is what we're doing. The first week, team, we start with, I want to cover the manual to automation, the importance of how we move from IDE, the basics of writing there, and then start immediately into WebDriver. I think I should be able to cover a lot of this today, and then we're going to take some of it into tomorrow's session. And by the end of the first week, we should be pretty much comfortable with how Selenium WebDriver works, how element identification works, how we can do or build different types of automation frameworks. Now it's going to be fast track, team. And since we're going to have 10 minutes break every hour, I also want you to note that post training towards later part of your day, apart from this live session, I want you to practice and use the Skype group actively. So we'll start giving project assignments and let's do it either independently or as a team. We can review that every day and see how we're making progress. That gives me a good idea on who's having what skill. Second week, team, I'm going to go more into APIs, programming. How can we work with JSON, XML, Postman, SQL, maybe a little Postgres as well, to try and understand the most important data concept of SDLC in general and how it affects the QA lifecycle. And we're going to talk about team CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment or delivery, where Jenkins, we're going to talk about how to create our jobs, schedule them, how we can integrate that with GitHub so that our source code can be somewhere else and we are able to maintain them using different branches for our repository. So we're going to go in detail into that thing. We will also look at how Maven can be plugged in, how we can do executions of a lot of our automation through Jenkins. We're going to go into more of Docker theme, why we're talking about containers or where does Kubernetes by itself come into. I'm giving plenty of time in week 2 where we go literally away from automation into all these tools. So what you need to understand in this, are you all with me? Can I get a nod? Any questions so far, please? Oh, it says restricted by group. Let me check. Is it fast track? No, everyone's here able to join, I guess. Let's see. Join the group. Yeah, it's on. Try again, please. So I'm just assisting with the members. And team, these are live sessions. So since these are live sessions, you will get significant chance to be able to interact with me. If not during the live training itself, but later on the Skype during the same days. So then week 3 team, I just wanted to keep an extension for this and said, let's talk about UFT, HP UFT, microfocus UFT now. It's still in demand. There are a lot of customers seeking it, and it's one of the most easiest tools to learn. It's got everything built in, and how is that still going to compete with our other tools in the market? Then we have the other open source and licensed tools, SaaS cloud-based tools to take a good look at. But primarily the objective team is the content in the week 1 and week 2 is so vast that if I had to do an hour training, it would take us 2 months. So we want to accomplish of learning everything concretely in these 2 weeks, and as much time as we get, try and do project assignments. Because team, the market is pretty aggressive, so let us try and be aggressive as well, at least with what we can do. I'm sure you'll enjoy these sessions. So that's the content. Everything else I think is pretty much there for us. Any other questions for me, please? I do have a couple of questions for you in the meanwhile. If there are questions for me, let me know. You can use your chat to have questions. At any point, if you think it's logical, you need to speak your question, raise your hand, and I'll unmute you. Okay, let's see the report. Team, this is 3 poll questions that I wanted to quickly bring it up to you. You should be able to see the first one on your screen right now. Just talking about your current skill level, team. It could be training, it could be projects, it could be pretty much confidence overall. Can I get everyone to take a couple of seconds and fill it as to what your skill level currently is, what you've been doing, working? Got almost 83% votes in team. I'm going to close this and share this then. 87% of you voted. There we go. So team, 5% of you SDET. I'm assuming that would be about 3-4 of you overall. QA automations, that's significant, 45%. And I really like that team because you know the basics of automation, maybe WebDriver and automation frameworks and so on. So that's good. Some of you have got little exposure to manual QA as a process. That's a good start. But overall team, 30% of you are in the beginner level, I would say. And not 30%, 50%. And the remaining 50%, maybe automation and SDET. That is how I'm splitting. So our approach to the entire audience would be more to go with assuming that you're all more beginners and manual QA. I'm not going to assume that you know any automation tool, and we're gonna go pretty much with that piece. Okay, great, thank you. One more poll question, team. I hope you all could see that result on the screen as well. Current job situation, team. I do know with all the pandemic effect that we're facing, it's not easy, everyone. I strongly felt and believe that this is a great situation for me to do some fast track training if people have the same urge to use the time we have. So where are you currently, team, in your current job situation where you're working from home, you have a stable job? Unfortunate that recently some of us have started to get laid off, and then we're looking actively or planning for it. All right, team. So I'm going to close this poll. I did not get everyone's vote in. I've got only about 78% of you. But I go ahead and close. Everyone, fast, please. Team, I'm also going to increase the space at which I'm going to speak and start training you. So be very alert with it. I do know these are long sessions. We're going to give breaks in between and it should be pretty much easy. Okay, close the poll, share the results. Team, I do feel bad for the fact that, you know, with the situation, we're all struggling, everyone. But there's positive, there's a little negative also in these results. For 11% of you, I hope you get back into your jobs very quickly. 21% are working from home, stable with continuing the work. So that is good, team. And please, if you believe that the training is interfering with your regular flow, don't. Maybe you can put it like a news channel on the side, let it run on a different system or on the television, these trainings, but don't focus on it. You'll get time later to do it. If you're on a full-time job, team, keep the training towards more side learning, not an active learning while you're working on, while you're supposed to be available for the team. All right. For the remaining team, larger portion of us, almost 80%, are someone who's now actively looking or planning something. So let's see what we can do collectively in the next 2 weeks. I definitely want to do a lot of activities around this team. One more thing that I want to mention before I go ahead is I want to use my weekends, if possible, for the next 2 weeks to do these mock interview sessions. So as we learn each week, whatever we are kind of going through, I would want to put them into a group. It is JPAC members. This is for JPAC members team, where I take a series of about 100 questions team, starting with basic, maybe computer science, Java, overall CI/CD, automation, and so on, and we'll start answering as a group. I want you all to participate if possible. I don't know if that timing is feasible, but Saturdays at least 10 a.m. to noon, couple of hours each. The other two things that I want you all to have, you will get a certification of training completion. So that's their team. And JPAC members, please start prepping yourself for getting certifications on any our tool as well. So once this is done by mid-April, you should be very, very active in the market. So that's about 3 weeks from now, team. It's not too far away. Okay, that's the big plan. And that also means that there will be a slight schedule change for the evening. After I'm done with core Java, I may not have evening sessions since we're doing this morning ones for now. But let's play around with the team. Okay, any questions before I get into our day one? So all the trainings that I'm doing are going to be here, team. This is for our SDET fast track March. And this document has all the content that we were speaking about. But now I'm going to create one new Google Doc. And here, session 1. So we were talking about all of these topics, team, where we have the most important thing is manual QA, basics of automation, thumb rules, ERA. I want to talk about writing test cases manually, improving test cases, and then we will do Selenium IDE, create and execute a few tests. Now, all of this, I don't think we'll be able to cover in session 1, team, most of it. As it flows through, we will skip them into the next sessions. So we are having 4 hours, right? So that's 9 to 10. and that's 10:10 to 11:20, then 11:20 to 12:30, then 12:30 to 1:30. Yeah. So primarily, we're looking at 4 sessions a day. Okay. Overall, there'll be 16 sessions, something like that. Okay, team. Questions? Let me know in the chat, or let's go ahead with the content that we have. And I need to keep an eye. 1 second, everyone. Registrations. 1 second, team. All right, team. Let's continue then. I don't see any questions as well. So, what is it that we're trying to do, team? In the overall world of how we talk about SDLC, the basic context of anything is we start with a requirement. The requirement becomes like a design. A design becomes like a code. Then it becomes tested. And then we go live or publish. It's a general process that every industry uses, team. But yes, more specifically with IT, you would see the relevance coming in. Team, I see a hand raised. I see a couple of messages just saying hi, Karthik. Oops, sorry. I'm seeing the wrong side of the chat. Oh, sorry, team. So here was the image that I was talking about as a regular SDLC cycle. So we start with any requirement. So let's say we want to build an application. We talk about, I want a user sign up. I want a user login. I want my user to go change the profile. I want my user to be able to log out. A simple application. So for that, your team of software engineers sitting down designing, oh, you know what tools to use, what kind of a developmental frameworks, how quickly these releases have to happen, how do they want the screens to look, what fields, what database, how do we connect them, all these things would come into how they want to design. Then we sit down and say, let's start coding, let's start writing whatever is there as a logic. Now there are different pages, there are different modules within any application, and they all have to work together correctly. So if there's a developer 1, developer 2, and n developers working on a project, sometimes you need to make sure everything is rightly synced up for the entire thing. That entire thing that we talk about is called the application, the app. And when the app is being tested, team, it comes into application under test, or it becomes our AUT. So far, just look at the way it has moved from a directional standpoint. It has started with requirements, very high level, no details. Then it went very detailed in here. And then a lot of people came together and started to create a solution for it. That is when the first version of the solution came out, the application. Then it has to be tested before it gets launched or gone flag. So all these developers are primarily working on one application. So back to what we were trying to do here. These were the points that I wrote, team, that what we should be covering in or the flow of these sessions for today. So what we're talking about now within the world of manual QA, I'm going to write only very simple notes, team. I want you to write them down at your end. I'm going to talk about AUT. That's your application under test. And our focus is always on how the AUT behaves with overall CI/CD. We will talk about this, but most importantly, application. Now, what are we saying as a manual QA? When we talk about breaking an application down, we say, hey, I want to break it down into modules. I want to break each module down into test cases. In my test case, we'll have detailed steps on what to do. Now that's my manual QA as a general structure of how I create my test suite. Now, the purpose is very simple, team, and I need to keep taking an application on test. I'm going to use QA on it. There is some interesting functionality that we can use. This app will also go through change and good for some automation that we can do. Let's take this as an example application and talk about something. So let's assume that this is an application that there are a set of developers who built it or planning to rebuild it or make some changes to it. So what is our approach, team? Our number one priority is to ensure everything works good. And now that's a very big and wide statement. We need to be able to narrow this down further. And that is where we say it is tough for me to talk about an application as one component unless I get a chance to do something about it. So the idea is very simple. That is where we break it down. Break it down into modules. So now a QA engineer or a QA analyst, okay, comes in and says, okay, I see this application and I see a lot of things. Let us start to write some test cases. Now, when we're talking about test cases, team, what is it that we're saying? We're saying that I'm expecting my application and test to behave in a certain way. If I perform the same steps, I need to get the same expected results each time. So that's very critical, team, for us to understand. Any test case is to say it has to give me a result. Test case passed or failed. It has to tell me, or maybe even a warning. Or it should give me a screenshot. Or it should send me an alert. Or it should log a defect. You know, there's so many things. When I say test case, the end of it. So now comes the purpose of everyone. So far, so good. I hope the speed is not too much. I'm just giving some basic before we write few test cases. Is it March? What they're talking about? All right. Now here is what happens to me. We're talking about a process called manual testing. So what does that entail? Primarily, it is driven by a human, and the human is going to perform certain tasks. And those tasks have to either tell me they're right or wrong. That is the manual testing. Now let us assume we take such a scenario. No, there's so many things that you see here, correct? Now, one of the scenarios, let us say, is that I want to talk about see all freelancers, for example. And we try and work on finding some freelancers with a keyword like, let us say, Git and search. I see there are about 210 profiles with that information that's coming in. So these are kind of scenarios, team. Now, but what happens is you need to identify where they belong. The first and foremost thing is let's try and take a peek look at the application. I'm not going to go in depth. The AUT in general don't expect too much documentation or spoon feeding over. The reason being everyone is tight in their jobs and applications change. Not necessarily documents have been correctly created, reviewed, and stored for later time. So when you join projects, you may join to say that, okay, this is what it is. So we need to spend time in dissecting the entire app, make summary scenarios, and get them reviewed by the business analysts, program managers, scrum masters, or even the developers. So the idea is very simple, team. There is no document where it says, oh, this is what you have to do and so on. You are a QA engineer. Your eyes have to go everywhere as to what is working where. Why is this pixel not correct here? Why is it not scrolling? All the visual testing, including the thought of what happens if a user logs in and does certain activity. So those kind of questions also keep rising for us. Now, the modules at a high level, let's talk about dividing this. I could talk about simple things like user administration, which includes sign up, sign in, profile settings. That's one. The application itself is a portal where a freelancer could create their profile as to what their skills are, what they're good at, and so on. And a client can also post in jobs where you, once logged in, are able to apply to them and bid for a project. And if the bid is something that we look that matches to that client's expectation, you go through a selection process of it, and then an e-commerce transaction happens through this application itself. That is fundamentally the idea. Any question on it? That is a sample application and a test that I'm taking for us to learn, for you to practice. And we will take multiple applications like this through our training. That way you have a better, different exposure each time. So we're using the simpler one to start with, then we'll keep using and changing. Let me pause and see for any questions. Can I please get a yes, no? Team good? Just want to make sure. So team, in this, now let's talk about writing one scenario. There's so many modules that we could create. Let's focus on one after the other. So that's user admin that I saw. Next, there is search feature also, right? A user can search. Then there is find job. There is post job. Then there is basic UI, UX testing that we could do page by page, what is happening. So when I want to write a scenario, any test case, we basically have information as to what to do, what are the inputs, what is the expected output. So if I talk about the same thing in a search fashion, I say that, hey, you know what, if I go to QA on air and click on hire freelancer, oh, it's asking me to sign up. Apply as freelancer, again sign up. But if I go down to this, see all freelancers, let me check this one. And see all freelancers, and I click on this, and it gives me a profile. So this is one of the things under search. So I'm gonna write it like this: the module is search, our test case is find freelancers, and then steps are basically go to AUT, click on find freelancers, type in search field, get results, show, see if any issue. Now this is a scenario team. The problem with such scenarios is it is great if you are going to be remaining as a tester forever. But let us say we have a team of testers across the globe, and all of you are using not one, oops, there's my laser. Not one, but bunch of these documents, test cases. So this test case, let's say there are 500 such test cases inside this. So you need to make sure that any other human should also understand. And that is where we need to use a template. So there is more clarity across teams. So now to do this, a notepad, Word become not very interactive. Yes, you can embed images into Word, but not filter, sort, so on. Hence, an MS Excel is a good option. So how do we put something into Microsoft Excel itself? So I'm assuming team, you all have Excel. If you don't, optionally use Google Sheets. I'm assuming team, you have some familiarity here. I should write it also for prereqs, maybe Google Sheets, MS Office. It's a good start. Okay, so when we get to Selenium, you check Ramu. And team, one more thing, do not ask me questions that we have not got into yet. It will deviate us from what we're trying to learn. And second, I'm going to show you the configurations and the steps of how we're going to do it, each and everything. You're going to try it at your end. If and when you face issues, use our Skype group or any of our live webinars, and we'll take a look into it. All right. Back to our session then. Where are we? So we need to put some clarity into it. And that's where I said, let's start using Microsoft Excel. So when we talk about an Excel team, gives me a structure. It has rows and columns. So with that in mind, let me put something very neat. First thing I'll say is let me have a module identification so that it is uniquely known to me what module. Maybe I can add a module name. I need to know what test case identification and test case name. When I say name or description to it. And then we may have steps into it. Test step, expected, actual. Now this is what we can write in a very simple manner. Okay, everyone. Now, what do I mean by module? We're clubbing everything, breaking down one application into different pieces, right? AUT modules. So in this, we are looking at which one? Search is it? So I'm going to call this as M. Search is maybe the second module. So this is 1, 2, 3. I'll go like that. I'll say M2 underscore search. Now, all search test cases will be under. I have one test case to begin with, so it's a TC01. I mean, I have a dozen under. So what is slowly happening, team, is we're giving it a more structured template. And the primary reason is the documentation helps us to repeat these tasks, not only ourselves, but across with other members as well. What are we doing here? We're doing find field access. Now look at from a steps perspective, team. There may be many steps for this specific test case. So all I do is I copy this template and I put it up here. And I said, this is what it is. Now, this becomes a group of steps for my test case. I don't know how many yet this pandemic. So let's also insert a number, team. So that way, easy to order them because the sequence in which I test is also very critical. Sequence of test steps is very critical. So what does it mean? It's like almost like a process, right? So you cannot have any results expected without seeing any specific keyword into it. It's not getting filtered. So you cannot skip steps. You cannot do it in a different order. It needs to go in that specific order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. The first one is, let's say, go to AUT. What do I am expecting? Website opens with no issues. That's what my expectation is. We are, this is day one only, right? So we have 4 hours today. And what we're trying to do in most part of plan, a little bit of WebDriver and Java also today will be covering. So we'll be covering half of this. Maybe JUnit basics will, that will be a good end. So I'm going to the application and a test, and I'm making sure the website is open. Now the actual one, when I test it, I'm saying yes. So its result is that step is a pass. No problems with it. And each time, see how much I'm documenting. QA effort being spent. What are we doing? First, we're spending a little time in understanding the application and the test. Next, we are starting to create test artifacts. That's basically all your test cases, document docs, etc. that you need to have. And understand what you're doing, team, because eventually you need to also get an idea about how effort estimation is done. So when you look at an application, when you look at a specific project, and you know that this is the release cycle, here is how the application looks, you can come up with, oh, you know what, we can do this, we can do that. Now, team, go to application and test. Next, click on find freelancers, then type UFT, and then get results, verify result as UFT, then close AUT. Now, do you notice the way I've structured these steps, team? They're logical, information. They basically tell a user what to do. But the challenge is, it is primarily too focused on the fact that everyone is smart and knows all the details. What is smartness, team? Does that you know a little bit additional information than someone else? And maybe you're able to hence come up with a faster solution, correct? Now, let us say you are smart, but your team members, on the other hand, are not so much. Then what would happen, team? There is a lack of connection. Let us say you are not as smart as your other contemporaries in the team. Then there is a lack. Then how will projects happen? And you have come through a different channel of experience. Each of us have done the same. So we may not all be having the same level of skills to begin with, and hence there should be a lot of standardization or good practices or methodologies. That way, team effort pays out great. So what do I mean? Do you see anything flaky in this? If I send it to my QA engineers, let us say in offshore, just the sheet, will they be able to test? Just the sheet. No, there is a lack of additional data. When I say go to AUT, where is my application and test? What is the detail? I need some data to be provided. That is my URL of the application. Click on find freelancers. So we're saying click, and in this, I don't really need a data input. Let's say I'm typing UFT. Once I say see all freelancers, actually, click on see all freelancers. And then here, see all freelancers. And I need to type where in skill or keyword, and that is the other information that we need to do. So type in skill, I will say. And what do I want to type? UFT. So let us say I do that. Skill is a predefined list, team. I don't have anything with UFT, and hence it is not picking it. In Selenium, it does not have. That's manual testing is the test automation framework. This list will get updated because it's a drop down based on what you're entering. Here is where we're going to do this. So type in keyword. It's a very simple scenario, team, to start with, but we'll talk how we advance. So see, so far it's all standard about my application. Now it's being very specific from here. Each step has its own details. And see, website opens. And so now see team, for each of this, I'm expecting something. Click on see all freelancers, goes to next page, and then I can see keyword field and type there, can see and type basically. Results would come. So you say UFD and just enter, and I get 56 profiles. Number of profiles available. Verify result. Now this I'm expecting it to have 56 profiles available. That is my data. So verify that this result comes. So unless it changes tomorrow to something else, because maybe there's someone deleted their account or someone else has added into it, so it becomes that is my expected information. So now see team, these are the steps that we want to do, and here is how we would do it manually. But now the same thing we can quickly save as the team just cross 10, do it on Selenium also. And that's one test case. Now just quickly showing you as a variation to the other one, I'm now creating a different. And here are two different ones. The only thing that I'm changing here is I'll type Selenium. And when I type Selenium, let's see what I get. 346 profiles. That's the difference in how content is also getting. Now, let's just giving it slight coloring team at the back end. It helps to just identify for us visual sake when we're doing some learning. Now, I want to do exactly the same things with an automation tool. So manual testers, if you give this amount of information, that is sufficient. When it comes to automation, we need to be able to provide furthermore. Team, it's 10:05 right now. Shall we all take a quick 5-minute break and join back at 10:10? That way we can continue. We had about 40-minute session so far. We need to do a few more hours. And like I said, the schedule is going till 1:30 p.m. So pace yourself along with me and do take notes as much as you can. You may not be able to create all the content that I'm doing so quickly, which I'll share with you as the sessions happen. All right, team, same username, same link. I'll see you in 5 minutes. Please also be there in Skype. It's easy to communicate for us. Thank you, everyone.